We're live with another episode of the Evolution Franchising Podcast. My name is Mike Welch, and I'm the founder of Evolution Franchising. We help people find and evaluate great franchise opportunities. And our guest today is Rachel Stender, the Vice President of Franchise Development for Repham. I've known Rachel for several years now, met her when she was obviously very young. So, Rachel, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me. Really excited to be here and always a pleasure to connect with you. I started in franchising in 2007, which is when we met, and I was so young. So thank you for that. And prior to that, though, I was in corporate retail. So I was really able to learn a lot of things in corporate retail, both at the Gap buying office and then Target, but really with Gap had helped them open Banana Republic factory stores as a new brand. So that I attribute to really starting and kind of nurturing what I loved about new business. So even though we were within kind of a big company that you're going to probably succeed, it was just fun to really wear all the hats, stick your hands in everywhere and be part of that. So I got out of the corporate world, I guess, came back to Minnesota, found franchise over some time and became a franchise consultant. So you're in a good spot. Really enjoyed my time with franchise, both on the consultant side, but also working on the corporate side.
Yeah, I
And then
remember that.
yeah, so did a little bit of both. And then after that got into more of the development piece of it, working with some outsourcing companies, also consulting, and then of course finding Repham Group and starting with them in May of 2021.
What
So
a
it's been
rocket
great
ship.
experience.
What a
Mhm.
rocket ship. Unbelievable. How many brands do you guys have now?
We have 10. So up until a few months ago, we had five. We launched two more brands, and one of them is, I think, within a day signing their first deal. And then our other three, you'll hear a lot more about in the upcoming weeks, just with launches and more information. So excited to really skyrocket the company too. It's definitely been a full year.
Yeah, you guys were a growth catalyst for LA Mental Health. Like it
Mhm.
was amazing. That has to be the franchise of the year, I would think, as far as growth. It was
Mhm.
unbelievable story. It's going to be the
Yeah.
thing of legend, I
Yeah.
think. So
I think so too. There aren't many like that. So you appreciate them when they are and you make sure they're done right. And it's just, they're incredible people, great organization. And fortunately, we have so many others that are really on a good growth path. I mean, maybe not over 400 units in 1 year, but, but still doing really well that we're excited about.
yeah, that's awesome. So today I think we're going to talk about Kidokenetics, right? Which is a brand
Yes.
in you guys, well, you know what, rather than me steal your thunder, why don't you tell us a little bit about Kidokenetics?
Absolutely. So Kidokenetics is a children's enrichment and fitness program for kids from 6 months to 12 years old. So we provide enrichment classes to children, so where they'll take one class a week, and parents typically are paying for that type of program. We also have accredited curriculum, so we are able to be the PE teacher for many schools that may not have the bandwidth or need for a full-time PE teacher, but want someone that's consistent that they can depend on, that provides good curriculum. So we have those two facets. We do camps. And because it's a multi-sport program, we have over really 20 different sports that we're able to provide. The children are really exposed to something new every week. And we're ultimately teaching them, more about, development. Here's an introduction to each sport. Here's how to use your left and right side if you're really young. Here's how to throw a ball. But ultimately, the neat thing is it's not competitive. So they're competing against themselves and they're just trying to get better at something themselves and really build confidence, but also have a lot of fun while being active, kind of tricking the child to, get active and be fit, but also just have fun while doing it.
Okay, so I think you just answered a question that was dancing around the gray matter, which is 20 different sports. That's a lot of curriculum. That's a lot of coaches.
Mhm.
That's a lot of employees. But if it's not competitive in nature, if it's all about, development and making it fun, you're probably a lot more modest labor than what I was originally thinking.
Oh, completely. Our coaches were not hiring for their skill set in a sport. We're hiring for their personalities. Are they excited about working with kids? Are they excited about fitness? Do they like, being in that role? So it's more about their personality and what they want to do versus have you played soccer professionally? Because we're
Got it.
not teaching a child to be the next professional soccer or lacrosse player. We're teaching children to just develop and learn new things, but they're very easy things to be able to teach a coach how to coach. So we have a lot of materials, training, and support for our coaches. But typically, franchisees might start out with them, depending on structure of ownership, anywhere from 1 to 2 coaches to start out with. And then you can build your payroll variably, just depending on how many clients you have.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
demand there, you don't have to add another coach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no.
So it seems as though there are plenty of child enrichment program franchises out there, right? So
Mhm.
is what makes Kidokenetics different? Is it that you lead with sport?
I would say it's a few things combined. So there are many children's businesses out there that you have an opportunity to be part of, but many of them also are brick and mortar. So we're not
Mhm.
brick and mortar. We're mobile. The overhead for franchisees is very low. So not only do you have really variable payroll just based on need, you also have a storage unit for your equipment. Your equipment is very inexpensive to purchase. So
Kickballs.
your operational costs are extremely low. So
Got it.
your profit margins are very high, regardless of what operating model you're following. Every operating model still has a kind of a good profit model associated with it. But I think the biggest thing is, we're coming to where the children are. Parents don't have to bring their children to us, and it's very easy. Every school is usually looking for a solution to offering more variety and more enrichment opportunities for children. Some schools really need a PE teacher that they can depend on, so they're not seeing the turnover rate in that PE teacher or making the math teacher teach PE and they really want nothing to do with it.
Right.
So there's a lot of different reasons. So the conversion rate of being able to go into a school and talk to the school director and either initiate a client based on enrichment or the PE programs is really high. We don't get a lot of pushback on that, so it's more about just having the activity and going in. So there's a lot of good things about Kidokenetics, and it truly is a need. It's something that you see out there. It's something, you have 4 kids, so trying to sign them up for things in time before it sells out. Those are things that you see, I mean, all the time. Like you're signing up for camps and it's sold out in a minute.
Constant source of frustration for the missus and
Yes.
myself.
Yes. Especially with 4. I have 1, so I can't imagine.
It's
So
4 times that frustrating.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so this is, I mean, listen, there's nothing about this business that isn't a feel good business, right? Anything I
Yeah.
think like if you're taking care of the elderly, if you're doing things for, supporting the troops, if you're doing things that are taking care of the young, the young
Hmm.
people, the next generation, that's always a feel good business. And I had a huge aha moment just a second ago. This is mobile.
It
So it's an
is.
alternative. I want to be involved in a kid business. I want to make an impact in the
Mm.
lives of the young folks in my community and their families.
Yeah.
But I don't want this big, huge learning center with
Hmm.
classrooms and with teachers and these massive salaries and huge rents.
Yes.
And COVID, it seems to me, trained us to appreciate the mobile services, right? Think
Hmm.
about all these food delivery services and the people that will go shop for your groceries and bring them to you now, and the dog grooming services that just show up at your
Hmm.
doorstep. This is child enrichment at your doorstep if it for the private
Kind
pay
of.
people.
For some, well, and it's even easier than that, I'd say. We're not necessarily coming to your home unless we're doing a private event or a birthday party. We're going to the schools. You might bring your child to a community center, but let's say you drop your child off for
Aha.
or let's take a preschool. You drop your child off for preschool. You have before and after care because you're a parent that works throughout the day. So at the end of preschool, whether that's 2 or 3 o'clock, they have time that they're spending before you pick them up. Well, we are one of the opportunities that you can sign your child up for to do something during that time. So that's when a lot of our classes are held, is when they're still at school, but we're showing up to provide that 30-minute, 45-minute course.
Gotcha. So almost every school has some form of after school program,
Mm-hmm.
and that's you guys. Okay, another huge aha moment. So you guys have multiple revenue streams. You can do private parties, you can do camps,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing these after school programs
Well,
for.
and those are the enrichment programs. So
Yeah.
enrichments can happen throughout the day. Sometimes they'll even offer them in daycares, during the day. So it all comes down to the school, when they generally have those programs. Usually enrichment is anytime, I would say, in the, after nap time and on. Whereas when we're teaching PE, a lot of times that will be in the morning. So that
Okay.
not more 9 to 12, 9 to 11 time period, depending on the school. So we are.
Would that be would that be another? Sorry to interrupt, Rachel. I just want to make
That's
sure
okay.
I want to make sure I get my brain wrapped around it so that everybody that watches this can follow along. They're probably smarter than I am, but they probably already got it, and I'm just catching up. So you can also become the physical education arm for a school or a daycare as well. Is that
Correct.
okay?
Correct. Yep. Yep. Exactly.
So how okay, so one question I ask everybody is how are you innovating in the space? And I'm not sure with, you probably don't have a better soccer ball or a better, baseball,
Hmm.
but what are you guys doing to innovate in the space? And maybe we can ask that question from a customer
Hmm.
centric side and
Yeah.
also from a franchisee support side as well.
Hmm. Yeah. So customer side, I would say, you want to provide as much to your child as you can, especially if you're at work and your child's at school. Of course you want them to be active, but not just run around and throw a ball. So the curriculum and programming is very structured, where even though the children think they're just having fun, there's kind of a warm up, there's an introduction to the sport and the skill that they're doing, there's some free play time, and then there would be more of, we always do core work. So they're doing sit-ups and push-ups, and then it goes into a cool down. And if they're 3 and over, they're also learning part of the body's anatomy. So whether it's a hamstring or a sternum, they're learning something about the body and being educated with that too. So there is structure to it. It's really giving them some of that structure that children like, but they're able to really run with the play and the sport. So I'd say on the experience for the child, there's some education there. With the parent, we make it very easy. They can scan a QR code, sign up online, pay for the 8 to 10 classes that they're going to take over the next 2.5 months. Everything's very easy for the parent to be able to sign up for. And other than, their child coming home with a really cute card saying, this is what I did today, they don't have to worry about, I need to get them here by X time, I need to pick them up by X time. It's something that they're just able to add to their child's development, and have it very easy for them.
And
On
before we transition over to the
Yeah.
franchisee side, Rachel, you guys write is all the curriculum already is done by the franchisor or by the
um,
franchisee?
Franchisor, and also many of them in conjunction with the national body. So if it's kind of a national soccer association, there's nonprofits for almost every sport that's out there. So we've gotten some curriculum from many of them. For the younger children, we've had to adapt and write that curriculum, but ultimately it's coming from corporate down to the franchisees. So the franchisees aren't doing that. There's
Got it.
coaches cards, there's the LMS system. There's a lot of different ways that we're teaching that, but ultimately they're very straightforward class curriculums. Again, we're not looking for the next professional baseball player at age 3. We're
Right.
just trying to help them understand, hey, this is how you throw a ball, and have some fun while doing
Awesome. Thank you. And what about on the franchise support
it.
side?
I say innovation right now is, what everyone is probably most worried about when they join any business. It's how do I get customers? So how do you build revenue and really launch the business? And we are doing some really innovative things with Kidokenetics right now, where once a franchisee joins the system, the team is going through, they're identifying the top daycares, preschools in that territory. Also kind of some other key schools and contacts. So they may be, depending on territory, be mailing out some really kind of FedEx size mailers, really pretty and colorful with the Kidokenetics logo with some information in it. They're mailing those out before the territory even opens to these key people that they've already confirmed is the contact for those schools. And they're making a phone call to say, we're coming to the area, expect this package to come from Kidokenetics with some more information. And even if it's a voicemail, they've gotten the voicemail, they're going to get that mailer. And that's a really warm follow-up for that franchisee to go in and shake their hand and say, hey, do you have some time today to chat about Kidokenetics, or could we set up a time to do so in the future? But we are even scheduling on a corporate side demo days. And from demo days, we might have a demonstration of a class. Many times from those demo days, for the most part, they become a client. So we're even doing that ahead of time too. So client acquisition, we definitely have down. We help franchisees not only get to that point where we're acquiring them, but also really help them understand the process for doing that too. Because ultimately their role, whether they take it or they're hiring someone, is going to be business development. So, to build the business, you need the clients. So sales is definitely a part of it, but very easy, consultative, and it's a happy business to sell in. So
Yeah, well, it's an easy topic to talk about, but they
yeah,
do need to have
complete.
a wallflower that is absolutely terrified of approaching someone, even in a warm environment, to discuss beautiful things like child enrichment. That person need not apply, right?
They're not going to be able to be as engaged in the business. I mean, I wouldn't in our semi-absentee or owner-operator model, no. If you have someone like that truly has a passion for kids, for fitness, that's been active themselves, maybe played sports in the past, so they hit all these other attributes, but they're just really not comfortable going out and having a conversation. And they just want to be hands off. We do have a business management model where Kidokenetics Corporate will actually hire the GM, manage their business, and really run their business for them almost, with kind of weekly check-ins, so that they understand what's happening. But Kidokenetics would be managing that. So similar to kind of a management company for operations for a hotel, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
But there's an agreement that they can go into. But I would still say that franchisee still needs to be passionate about the industry and the reason that they want to be part of Kidokenetics.
Gotta love kids, can't be an old curmudgeon. That doesn't
Yeah,
work. But
completely. Because they do
if
need
I'm
to inspire their GM. I mean, their GM should have a good relationship with them, so they should be somewhat inspiring.
Gotcha. It can't be I cannot remember her name, but it can't be Carol Burnett from Annie, right?
No, no,
That only
no.
has the orphanage for the money.
Yeah, you
Um,
don't want people to run the other way. So,
okay, so there's an investor model here. That's interesting.
mhm,
So
mhm.
three, really, from a business model standpoint,
Yeah,
there's three, as I'm hearing you say
correct.
it.
Yes,
Owner run. I love kids.
correct.
I want to be involved day to
Yeah.
day.
Hmm.
Manager run, semi-absentee, but I'm responsible for the day-to-day running of the business. I'm working on it 15, 20
Yeah.
hours a week. And then there's an
Yeah.
investor model where
Correct.
you guys are running my business
Hmm.
and doing it with my capital and a little bit of
Hmm.
my time.
Correct. Correct.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
That's
So,
unique.
yeah. So with our owner operator, it's as little as one territory. They're doing business. They're doing the business development. They're also doing all of the operations side in terms of hiring, recruiting, training, coaches, scheduling. And then as they grow the business, they may add a head coach to really help them more on the people operation side of it, and focus on business development. The semi-absentee could be two or more territories. They'll hire the general manager, and then they can decide where their strengths are. Are their strengths more on hiring, recruiting, scheduling, and they're just not as comfortable in sales? So maybe the GM they've hired is really comfortable with the business development side, or vice versa. So there's a little bit of adaptability there in terms of how they want to structure that. And then we have the business management model, where Kidokenetics is running the business, and that needs to be three territories or more, to be able to, for
To make it
Kidokenetics to
viable, right?
consider that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's definitely some effort. So So that one is where there might be a weekly call with the team just to check in, make sure things are going well, but ultimately very, very minimal time. The other thing that we're seeing, and what I would say half of the people that are coming into the business management side of it are doing, is that after maybe a year, they want to transition to semi-absentee. So they want to kick off the business in a really positive, full force way, but maybe they're really tied up with the current position. So they want to get out of that. They want to do the semi-absentee, but they're willing to kind of have the extra expense for the management model initially because it helps support them to set it up the right way.
Yeah, so they want to have their sea legs underneath them before they fire corporate America.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I like it.
Exactly. Mhm.
So, how many locations do you guys have open, and how many are in development, Rachel?
Well, as of yesterday, we have 47 territories. And I would say, so in terms of open, with Kidokenetics, it's a mobile business. So it's almost, in a way, everyone's open. So we have about 20 franchisees, and they, really we have then, of those, since two are relatively new, probably 18 open. And the rest very soon. So it's an extremely fast ramp up. We have an 8-week onboarding process from the time they sign their franchise agreement to the time that they're active and running the market. That
Mhm.
can be shortened up to 4 or 5 weeks. And our fastest onboarding time has been 3 weeks. And she was fully operational. So it's
And for those
very,
watching this,
yeah.
4 week onboarding and 8 week onboarding, same work. There is no skipping the
Mhm.
work. Every
Yeah.
I gets dotted, every T gets crossed. There's no
Yeah.
shortcuts. The woman that did it in 4 busted her butt to get it done in
Yeah.
4.
She did, and that was her focus. And those that do
Right.
it in 8 have some other responsibilities that they're fitting it into. And so they can take the time to do that, but ultimately it's very easy to do within that 8-week time period.
So, talk to us about recession, right? Everybody,
Mhm.
the recessions come and go. They happen more regularly, I think, than people think. I think what tends to stir the minds of folks is when it hits, the news cycle. And right now it's in
Yeah.
a news cycle. So people are asking me about recession resistant businesses. So
Mhm.
how has Kidokinetics weathered recession, and what have you guys done to ensure that it weathers, the next dozen recessions over the course of the next 15, 20 years?
Mhm. Sure. On a recession standpoint, it doesn't impact us. When you think about what parents will spend, where they spend their money, they might take away the big trip. They might take away some things for themselves, but they generally spend money still on their kids and their pet. So you still see them doing that. And it's not a huge expense. It's a nominal expense when you consider what they're doing for that program period. So that doesn't really affect us. The only area that I've seen things change is just how franchisees are financing the business. They're maybe
Hmm.
not going the SBA route so much. I see a lot of home equity. I see using retirement funds and some portfolio loans, but other than that, not much for SBA within the Kidokinetic system.
SBA would rather loan a million than 100 grand all day, right?
Correct.
Because same
Correct.
amount of work, they make a lot more money on it. So
Yeah.
for some of these
Mhm.
modest home-based mobile type
Yeah.
businesses, the SBA is just not a viable alternative right now. And
Yeah.
so yeah, we coach people up on that pretty regularly. Um, but no, I mean, to your point, and I quite frankly, I like home equity line of credit as well. I always keep one in the event that I want to invest in something.
Yeah.
And they're simple, they're clean. It's not an endorsement one way or the other, and it's not a knock on the SBA, by the way.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
uh, so this is the part of the podcast where we talk about there's no such thing as a perfect business. Every interview we do, let's get real for a second. I mean, this
Mhm.
is cool. It
Yeah.
makes an impact in the community. It's positive. It's fun to talk about. There's no perfect business. And the owners, you got 3 different models, so it might solve for that to some degree, but you know, there's things that people have to overcome every single day when they own
Mhm.
a business. What are some of the things that they need to be prepared to overcome if they own a Kinetic
Yeah.
in any of the
Well,
models?
yeah, I think you hit on one is just their role. So the models can help fix some of that. And honestly, that part is more can you do business development? Because if you don't have the activity, the clients don't happen. But I would say overall, if I'm just to say, doesn't matter which model you're in, the biggest challenge, it's similar to many businesses where it's just, hiring, it's just retaining coaches, it's
Yeah.
hiring and retaining your team. Our coaches are generally out of college. They're younger, they're excited to be part of the brand. So what we have done is really put in a lot of, I would say, processes and programs to help retention, and we have best practices for that. So it is a challenge. One thing we want to make sure of is that we're able to give someone at least, that 30 hours a week to be what we consider full time in our business.
Are they
Um,
employees or independent contractors, Rachel?
they're employees.
Okay.
Yep,
And how
they
many
are.
per territory? Once it's if I'm just hustling and bustling, I
Yeah.
own this territory and we're knocking the cover off the ball.
Mhm.
How many coaches?
I mean, it will vary throughout the year. So through the year, when you don't have summer camps, you might be in a 3 to 5. It all comes down to how you're scheduling. So we talk about smart scheduling. You don't just let the school dictate when they want to do it because it seems like they always pick Wednesday. So we want to basically make
Is that
sure.
right?
Oh yeah, it's very strange.
Wednesday?
Yeah, just that middle sounds
Make it
good.
through the hump?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really about smart scheduling, and you can have one coach that can go to different schools every day of the week. But if you're not scheduling right, you might need 5 coaches for a day.
Right.
Versus it could have been something where you could have spread it out. And you're never going to keep 5 coaches if they can't get really more of a full-time experience. So it's really helping our franchisees hire, schedule, learn how to do those things the right way. We also have for our head coaches, we have a head coach huddle every month. So it's all the head coaches in the country. We have another one just for coaches. So it doesn't matter. Like one of our core values is just really recognizing that everyone has a role in the business. So we have all the coaches also able to come on to kind of a group call to be able to just build our culture and learn more about what they can do just to be a better employee. It doesn't necessarily need to be just Kidokenetics, but we follow the EOS platform traction. So our franchisees are on it. It's something that's very near and dear to how Kidokenetics is run.
So find them, love on them, and keep them. Just like any
Correct.
other business that
Hmm.
has any employees, that
Yeah,
is the secret sauce.
correct. Yeah. And
Okay.
honestly, that's the biggest challenge.
So I normally ask what's your dream candidate, but again, with these three models, you might have solved for that. I think I know what your answer is. I think there's one characteristic because I can put them into one of three different buckets depending on these other things. But what's your dream candidate?
Yeah, well, obviously you love children. I would say it's very mission driven. So it's someone that wants a business that will do good in their community, that will be engaged with the community, that provides an avenue to children away from screen time and really helps them build other skills. So they truly care about children and children's development, regardless of model, whether it's passive, that business management or semi-absentee or owner operator. A lot of our franchisees are either still in sports and fitness, or they were maybe college sports in the past. They've coached their children's teams. They've been engaged in sports in some way, shape, or form, and they know what being part of that really gave to them in their development and growth. So that seems to be a pretty common characteristic. It's not a requirement, but that's just what we see. Age is kind of across the board. We have franchisees. I think we'll have one that's 25 that's signing up in a couple weeks, and otherwise a lot of younger 30s to mid 50s. So again, it's still important to them. They're still focused on really filling that need, but ultimately it's a feel good business. You're not trying to do the oil change thing, and I mean, not many people are happy when you go in for an oil change because I always feel like there's 10 more things wrong with my car when I come out. But it's just something that's really engaging for people to talk about and to be part of.
Yeah, I think it's impactful. I think it's easy to chat it up about. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, this podcast could go woefully long if we aren't careful. So I'm going to ask you to wrap it up
Okay.
and take us home, Rachel. So, what are the
Yeah.
final comments that you would have um, about Kidokinetics before we part
Yeah.
ways today?
I think where we're at, we have some great franchisees. It's such a great mission for people to be part of. The support for Kidokenetics is beyond words. So we are still a young franchisor in our growth, but we have Dave Pasgan, who built up 101 Mobility, over 100 million in sale franchise system that's at the helm of it. We have College Hunks Hauling Junk founders that are investors and advisors. We have Frank Milner from Tutor Doctor, who's an investor and advisor.
Who was
So
just
we
on the
have,
podcast the other day. Yeah.
yeah, so we have a
That's
really
some heavy
good
hitters. Is that
support
the
group.
board, Rachel?
It is, yes. Well, and Dave is active partner. So Dave is day to day. And then the others are on the board. So definitely have set Kidokenetics up for success as they grow. And we're seeing that come to fruition, month to month with our franchisees.
So I don't want to belabor, but that is a heavy hitting board of directors.
Yeah, very much so.
So, well, listen, thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it. Rachel Stender, VP of Franchise Development for Repum Group. Great organization, great franchise executive in Rachel. No doubt a great team that you're working with and a great brand that's helping to get kids off their screens a little bit and get them moving. So, really
Mhm.
appreciate you being with us here today, Rachel.
Absolutely. All right.
Take care.
Thanks,
Talk
Mike.
to you soon.
You too. Bye.